Hey there, welcome to Auntie Talks and Listens. The CDC study done in April 2024 indicated that 10.43 million American women said that they have had issues with infertility. The average age of women giving birth for the first time is declining. In 1970, that number was 24.6. In 2023, it was 27.3. We also know that those numbers, as those ages, are even higher with women who are pursuing their education and their careers, opportunities that we did not have for many, many years. And so, those women with bachelor's degrees, the average age for a first time parent of a woman with a bachelor's degree is 30. The CDC also did a study indicating that 18% of US women between the ages of 35 and 44 used fertility treatments in order to be able to conceive and carry to term. The reason why I wanted to share today's guest with you, Rhonda Lynn Jenkins, is because Rhonda knows quite a bit about the infertility journey. Hey, Rhonda, how are you?
Hey,
Can you introduce yourself to our audience?
absolutely. I'm Rhonda Lewis Jenkins, and I was on the infertility journey for many, many years. In fact, I endured 4 miscarriages over a 9-year period. I did receive medical intervention. It was really tough for me to start my family, but I am happy to report to you that I am the mother of twin girls, Raquel and Rachel.
Woohoo!
Healthy, wealthy, and strong. And
Okay.
I'm tuning in and chiming in right here from Richmond, Texas, right outside of Houston and Sugar Land, Texas. So I'm
Awesome.
excited.
Rhonda, at what age did you decide to start working on creating a family?
Ooh, that's almost a trick question because I'm going to tell you that I have always wanted to be a mom, even as a kiddo. I so one thing I want to kind of put in the atmosphere is that you don't have to have children in order to be a mother, because we know that there are a lot of women who are aunties, who are godmothers, who are church mothers, who are play mothers, who are mentees and mentors and teachers who have the heart of a mother. So I want to celebrate those women. But for me specifically, I starting to expand my family, build my family at about age 30. And boy, it was a tough journey for that, you know. So I guess when you think about when do you really start, again, the minute I was married, I was like, okay, I want to give it a few years to kind of settle down and get to know each other and live kind of as a family first without children. And then we started to actively try.
And now, Rhonda, I also know that you have had a very, very professional life also. I know that you've worked in corporate America. I know you've written books. I know you are a nonprofit leader. Were those things, in addition to waiting until marriage, part of why you waited until that age 30?
No, it was kind of an interesting concept because I really wanted to be married,
Mhm,
successfully and happily married before having children.
mhm,
So that's sort of the first demarcation. I was already working in corporate, in supply chain, customer service, procurement for years before I even started on my journey. So I was already a seasoned professional, which also made it pretty painful for me because you get an opportunity as a seasoned professional to watch other families celebrate
yeah,
birthdays, back to school, Halloween, Christmas, Easter, summer break. And so, not that you're not happy for folks that are doing that,
sure.
but you do kind of look and wonder, like, when is your time gonna happen? And for me, I was happy with a lot of folks. In fact, I was the aunt who helped to raise all of my nieces and nephews.
Wow.
And in fact, they actually started having children before me. And so one of the myths in my family that was pretty painful for me is that they believed that I did not want to have children, which was not true. That was the furthest from the truth. The reality is, I was suffering in silence because there was no one that I really wanted to openly share sort of my struggle and my journey with. and I shared it with my mom, and she was, she was my rock. I would not have made it without her.
So, question, how long after you started did you start to think maybe there's an issue here? I'm not getting pregnant.
Yes. So interestingly, the statistics show that you really have to have at least two miscarriages before you're considered for medical intervention, or you're sort of near over the age of 35 or have some additional health issues. A lot of insurance companies don't even cover infertility treatment. So for me, it was after my second miscarriage, I decided that I would sort of look beyond what was really, true to me as a natural. I could get pregnant, which is what the doctor said. Hey, you don't have any issues. I went through a lot of the basic um, tests, which showed that my tubes were open. I could get pregnant. Unfortunately for me, I was 50 pounds heavier, so I was overweight. That I certainly say that played into an issue as well. The fact that I had miscarriages before also played into health issues. But I also want to raise that it is not a female problem, it is a male problem, and it is a couple's problem. It's a challenge for both. So we look at, the woman who may share a little bit more about her infertility journey as I have. But I would certainly say that your male partner, your husband, your counterpart is as much in the game as you. It could be his morphology of his sperm. He could have a low sperm count. It could be the motility. Morphology is the shape of it, where it's not shaped right. Motility is they're out moving. Or you may have low sperm count or no sperm count. So there are other reasons why families may be delayed. Typically, most women don't do an infertility study or workup unless there are issues, because not only is it an issue with some of the reproductive organs, but you want to check your egg counts. Maybe it's his sperm count is great, your tubes are open, everything's great, but maybe the eggs that you have may be, not the healthiest, right? So there are many issues for medical intervention and infertility treatment.
Well, you've said a ton there. So I want to go back to a couple things that you said. And the first thing I heard you say was you were suffering in silence. You weren't sharing this with anyone.
Yeah.
And why was that?
So let me do a self disclaimer here, a little bit more transparency with you. So I am 57 years old. I had my girls at 40 years old. We are now living in a world where I am openly sharing on a podcast some bits and tidbits about my journey. But if you can imagine 20 years ago, folks weren't talking about it. I mean, we had our vice president at the national debate to talk about a few weeks ago that he and his wife endured challenges with starting a family. Those kinds of conversations were not even had at a dinner table. They weren't had at holiday gatherings. It's not the kind of conversation or icebreaker where you walk up to folks and start to share with them your painful journey about infertility. And I'll tell you that most women of color, one of the myths is that, starting a family is easy, right?
Absolutely.
And that could be furthest from the truth.
Yeah.
So if we look back historically, most of our parents and grandmothers, they had their kids before 25. Most of us are still in college, trying to get, seated in a job, find a mate, get happily married. You're still working on that part. So, yeah, that's the delayed parenting piece.
Yeah. And can I ask, was there, how should I say, any shame that you felt? Was that part of why you weren't sharing, or was it just the social norms were, we don't talk about those things?
Social norms, but also I was really shamed. I was embarrassed. It was a lot of pain for me, specifically because I was one of the oldest ladies in our family, and I should say in my cousin group. right, who had not had children. And so just the embarrassment of, hey, I'm kind of doing everything else, but I didn't know what was wrong. And I didn't know how to ask for help. And again, I took it. I mean, it was very, very painful for me. So, yeah, it wasn't something I was willing to share, but I did share with some of my close friends. One of the challenges is that infertility is a thing that unless you are in it or you've experienced it, it's kind of hard to describe it. Most folks will view it as, hey, if you've got, a great life, you've got a husband, you
Sure.
can travel, you've got material things,
Count your
but
blessings.
yeah, count your blessings and sort of be quiet and go away. And so until you have someone that actually can stand in your shoes, hold your hands, dry your tears, that can really, really emote with you through the process, it is very tough. So for me, didn't have peers that who had experienced the exact same things that I had. So that was difficult for me.
You also talked about infertility being a couple's problem and not just a
Yes.
problem for the woman. Did you and your husband both get a workup and assess what the problem was? Was it him? Was it you? Was it both of you?
Yes, we did. And I will tell you that that is a difficult conversation in itself. So because we could get pregnant, we had to go and get literally experts around the globe to help us. He had some issues that were identified very early on. There were some issues that I raised my hand and speak about quite often. So I had overactive natural killer cell. What does that mean? So, and I can
That
laugh
sounds
about
scary
it
as hell.
now and say, I knew I was a tiger. I just didn't know that my blood was fighting back, right?
Right.
So, for a lot of women of color, particularly over the age of 35, that are having recurrent miscarriages, there's some of the issues with them is just your overactive natural killer cells. So I had an immune issue where my body would reject a pregnancy. I could get pregnant, but just staying pregnant. So that my body did not see my pregnancy, my fetus, or the growing object in my body as something that was foreign and should not be there. So I would have what's called a spontaneous miscarriage. I even had a ectopic pregnancy, which is also very painful. So I've been through a lot. I've had it all.
Yeah, I feel like you had to also learn so much so quickly in that time. And if someone told me I had overactive killer cells, that would have scared the crap out of me, to be honest. Were you scared at any time?
Well, actually, it took me a while to get to that because I actually battled with a faith issue, to be quite frank. Not only was it
Wow.
embarrassing, I battled
Wow.
with should I leave it alone and just let God do its
Ooh.
thing, his thing, my God, that I so believe in, or should I do more? Should I find out what's wrong? And so this was sort of a new breaking edge kind of technology to understand more about your body, infertility, and actually what's wrong. So actually, I was able to, by the grace of God, get one of the top infertility specialists in the country, in the world, Dr. George Indukwe, who actually co-authored the book with me. And
Can you hold
so
up the book so everybody can see the book? Huh? Let us see the book. And what is the title of the book?
delay is not denial. This is a book that I'd love to share with anyone. It's also a study as well with, questions on how did I start? Why did I start? When did I know? And then
Wonderful.
just faith tips on how to keep going. So it's really, really good if you have a book club and I'm happy to join in if anyone would like to do that as well. But yeah, it was really a faith thing for me because my big question was, should I continue to look and receive and ask the question why? And so that investigation process led me to receive more medical intervention. And to further, it led me to having not only medical intervention, I had IUIs, which is interuteral. That's when you don't have the IV outside of the IVF. And then I had 2 rounds of IVF. So the first wasn't successful, but It's very expensive. It's emotionally draining. I took lots of shots, lots of medicines, lots of everything. And then you just have to make a decision, like at what point do you stop or do you continue? And so I struggled again. Should I even do anything extra? But I came to a wonderful place that you have to proactively wait. And proactively wait means, yes, you wait on God, but God needs you to do your part as well.
That is really what I wanted to dig a little deeper on. I'll be honest, I was a little bit taken aback when you said, that you had faith issues that made you question whether or not this was even something you should do. So, how did you deal with that and um, allow yourself to get to a place of feeling that, for lack of a better way to put it, this was okay with God?
A lot of prayer, a lot of fasting, a lot of seeking the face of God. And the conclusion that I came to was that it didn't really matter if it was a modern day miracle or if it was a Mary miracle. The reality is, you can have all kinds of medicines, you can have all kinds of treatment, but only when God decides and when He breathes life and when He blesses it or it becomes so. When He speaks it and says it's so, there's nothing that can change about it. But if we look at the way technology has moved, where if you look at something as simple as dialysis, right? Years ago, dialysis was a death sentence. Dialysis was, something that you couldn't do at home. But now there's in-home treatment. You can do, there are all kinds of advancements. And so I really had to understand that God allowed medical intervention to help me. He's allowed technology and science to help me. And so I landed in a place that if God intended for me, my God intended for me to be a mommy, that I would be. And so He said it would be so.
And now, how about your husband? Was he struggling with faith issues also, or was he on board initially for you to go this path?
That's an interesting question. And so I'm gonna answer that in a couple of ways. Allow me to kind of
Go
share
where,
with you.
yes, go where
So
you're comfortable going.
my my children's father, I'm happily remarried. We were married for 20 years, and he's Nigerian. And so with him being an only son and the oldest
Oh
son,
boy,
the oldest kid,
girl,
that was
you had
another,
a lot going on.
yeah. So that was, a whole cultural kind of pressure with him being carrying on his family lineage,
Sure.
with us being, almost 40 before we're, in. I had people around the globe praying for me. So please don't get that wrong. But he also was in faith as well, and he stood with me. Were members. I still am a member of Lakewood Church, and I remember him, and it's on the wall there now. He gave a large donation to sow seeds for our children. At that time, Lakewood was moving into their new building, and so if you had a prayer request or something that you will believe in God for, there's all these big panels where you know. You can put your prayer, and it's enclosed right in this big wall at Lakewood.
Well,
And so, unbeknownst to me, he had sown this seed, and he put in there, we are, standing for the children that we believe we're going to have. And I didn't even know that he had did that, but he was standing in his own way. But I know that it was difficult for him as well as it was difficult for me. We had a lot going on. He's an entrepreneur, so he had work stuff. I'm in corporate. I had work stuff. I had family stuff. He had family stuff. And then just financially, it's one thing to say that you're believing in faith. It's one thing to say that you have a diagnosis, but it's like, how do you afford being able to have this treatment, which is another whole dynamics, which is why, I raise funds for couples and I give away a grant each year. So I'd love to be able to do more in that space just because just the medicines itself, the medicines can be several $1,000s a year. So imagine if you received a diagnosis and you couldn't afford the treatment, or if you could afford the treatment but you couldn't afford the medicines. And if you did all that and still didn't have a baby or
Mhm.
babies, I mean, so it's a lot to. I always tell people, if you see my children and you see me with a live band behind us marching, it's just us praising God. I'm like, honey, these kids have had parties every year for the last 17 years, and people have asked, are they having a graduation party? I'm like, no, but I think I'm gonna have to have something for them. The fact that we just made it. Yeah.
Well, okay. So next question. So you dropped some acronyms and some terms there that probably everybody doesn't know what they mean. And I would appreciate it if you could shed a little bit more light about that. You said you had IUI and IVF. So can you tell us what those mean and what that treatment looks like?
Yes, so the IUI is actually pretty simple. It feels almost like a pap smear. So that's actually where they take your husband's, your partner's sperm, and they basically spin it in a centrifuge and try and get the best of the best of the sperm. And they actually inject it in the office inside of your uterus. So it's intrauteral, right? So it's a little tiny little needle. They just pop, the best of the sperms and try and populate your uterus with that sperm and hope that, nature takes its course and it grows. And that's very simple, easy process.
So that's kind of like uh, medically advanced turkey basting,
Yes,
right?
close,
Oh,
close.
mm-hmm.
Very good. Yes.
Okay.
And so, you got to obviously, they don't just do it for everybody, but you have to have a fertility diagnosis or having issues or trying to, start a family, obviously. The other procedure is IVF, which is in vitro fertilization. Now, that happens outside kind of the old science, like in a petri dish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Your eggs get extracted, which to me was like one of the most painful things out of everything I remember.
Wow.
But your eggs, right, you take medicines to basically hyperstimulate
Mm-hmm.
to create a lot of eggs, as many as you can, because you want healthy, strong eggs. Those eggs are pulled out and they are put in a petri dish or medical condition, observed under a microscope. You let them grow for a little bit. And so while they're growing, your husband's sperm is injected into those eggs. And then they've watched them to see which ones grow the best,
Mm-hmm.
for lack of a better word, which ones are the healthiest. And then after so many days, they grow and they're healthy. Then those eggs are taken out of that medical condition and they are reinserted into your vaginal area. And so, if all goes well, they begin to grow and you get pregnant and they get nicely attached, and so you'll have a viable pregnancy. What could go wrong? Well, they could not grow well, or you could get pregnant like I did on my first time, but later you still have another miscarriage. So I actually had to have some additional medicines added during my second IVF.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how many times did you do IUI and how many times IVF before you were pregnant with your now soon to be graduating twins?
17 years ago at age 40. So, a couple of things. So, I don't even know how many IUIs I had. I would
Oh,
say over 10 to 15. It was just a lot.
wow.
Just lost count. Um, so
So wait, were
there's a
you miscarriaging with that or just they weren't taking?
I never did get pregnant. I never,
Oh,
so they weren't taking.
oh,
So
oh.
there's a difference between the IUI and then the IVF, right? Depending on your age and your medical history between both family members, you decide, right? Hey, do we go to the next step or not?
Mhm,
And so I decided, that we would go ahead and go to the next step, because obviously you've got to have the money and the will and
mhm.
just the emotional journey to do all that. It's a lot,
Yeah,
because you could do all that and still not get pregnant.
right, right. And
So, but
then,
I had to answer your question, I had 2 rounds of IVF. But it's important to note that I got pregnant the first time And when my eggs were harvested and fertilized, that those eggs actually, embryos, actually, because I had my treatment in Nottingham in United Kingdom,
Wow.
those embryos actually stayed there for 2 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
I had enough, by the grace of God, enough embryos that were fertilized. Two were put in, and I had some left, and they were actually frozen under, frozen conditions. And I went back 2 years later alone by myself, of course, with his permission, but I went back and had my babies inserted. Yeah, the
Wow.
embryo. So the medical science is there. I would also recommend highly to any woman of childbearing years, if you have the means and the desire to become a mom, I would say that you should freeze your egg.
That was
Freeze
one
your
of
egg.
the questions.
Yeah, freeze your egg. You'd rather have them than not need them than to need them and not have them.
Absolutely. It's like
It's
insurance.
insurance.
It's insurance, right?
Yeah, it's insurance.
Yeah. So I have to ask, I want to get to the financial, but I I can't imagine the emotional roller coaster you had to be on. I mean, the the uh, getting up the courage and getting past your issues about your faith, and getting the finances to do this, and then only to go through these treatments and still have difficulty maintaining getting pregnant and then maintaining the pregnancy.
Yeah.
What were you doing in order to keep you emotionally sound? And I think I heard the drugs also can make you extremely emotional.
Extremely emotional. If you can imagine every 30 days getting a devastating blow
Oh my God.
that takes your cell away, your breath, your air, your hope, your dreams, your everything, your money, your time. But yet you got to get up and try again because another 30 days. So the longer you wait, the harder it gets, right?
Yeah.
So you have to, I mean, I can't begin to tell you how sad, how
Yeah.
hurt, how disappointed, but yet how full of faith I was. The
Wow.
dichotomy between,
Yeah.
I gotta be full of faith. It's like you have to trust God in a way that will blow your mind
Yeah.
because you have to know that when the medical reports say one thing, do you still keep going and do you still believe and trust God?
Hmm.
And or do you just stop? And I remember my brother, who I love so dearly,
Hmm.
he had 6 kids and he encouraged me to stop. And it was painful for me because I'm assuming that, yes, he's, you know, having this best interest at heart kind of thing. But I did ask him, I'm like, why would you, ask me to stop? Because you have kids.
Hmm.
And he said, because I saw you hurting and I didn't know how
Hmm.
to fix it. I
Yes.
couldn't,
Yes.
and to him, and to many others, there's the other piece. You have to be with a group of people who can be in agreement
Yes.
because and I thought, what if I would have agreed with him?
Hmm.
What if I would have stopped when he advised me to stop?
Hmm.
He kind of had a good reason because he didn't know how to help me. But if I had listened to what he said
Hmm.
or his encouragement or trying to cheer me up or whatever he thought he was doing, I would not be a mom today.
Yes.
And so I hit him back with the word of God and said, I hear you, but this is what the word says about me.
Hmm.
And so I hit him with those scriptures.
Yeah, and I can certainly, so again, you have my mind just firing on all cylinders because can certainly understand his perspective. I can. Um, I I am probably I have a high degree of certainty that I would have as your friend, that I would have said, you're an incredible auntie. You offer so much to children. You are a mom, and this has got to be incredibly painful. I don't know if I would have been able to watch you suffering and not have thought that. I don't.
Well, 9 years is a long time, but I'll tell you one thing that really had me to go to the next level. My best friend, we've been friends since the fifth grade, and she offered to carry my children for me. And she said, I'll carry a baby for you. And I thought, oh Lord, I must be really in bad shape if she's offering to carry a baby for me. And, I had tons of people agreeing and praying with me. But a big turning point for me was her offering to carry children for me. It allowed me to see either how much pain I was in or how serious my case was or whatever it was. But it took me to another level. And even more painfully, she went to a prayer vigil to pray for me to get pregnant, and she ended up getting pregnant. Lord have mercy. I'm like, this is like, I'm like, come on now, Lord. I thought I was your girl. This is crazy. Yeah, I'm laughing now. But you know what? And my mom she was so mad because my friend asked me to go in with her for her first ultrasound.
Oh,
And boy, my mom was
oh,
really mad. She was like, "Why would she do that?" Blah 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 blah.
yeah,
She was really upset.
yeah.
And so I'm so grateful that I was strong in my faith. I was crying, and I told her, I said, "This is so hard for me." I said, "But I want to be happy for you because it's not your fault that I'm having problems. It's not your fault that I'm not pregnant." And she already had a child, so this
Mm.
was like a whoops.
Woo.
And she's like, I told her, I said, I'm going to go in here with you. This is hard. This is tough, but I'm your friend. But what I told her, I want to be happy for you because when I get pregnant, I want people to be happy for me.
Mm. You are a warrior, Rhonda.
Honey, let me tell you, that was the last test. God is like, okay, girlfriend, you've been through enough. This
Yeah.
was the last test. And do you know that she got pregnant? She had her baby, and I got pregnant right after that. And so
Oh,
her son is
thank God.
18, just
Wow.
graduated in
Wow.
May, and my girls are graduating this year. So,
Um, what?
so imagine if I had gotten angry or
Yeah.
jealous or
Yeah.
whatever. But
Yeah.
I said, let me just stay the course because my mom was fired up, girl. We
I
had
would
been
have been
through
fired
a lot.
up. I would have
Mom
been
was
very
like, why
upset.
her? I was like,
Yeah.
no, it's not her fault. I'm going to be a friend to her because I
Yeah.
want somebody to be a friend to me.
I'm gonna tell you, Rhonda, you a stronger woman than me, and let me tell you, because if I had been your mom, I would have called her. I would have called.
Girl, my mama was saying special words. She was saying special words, and she had been my rock and a cornerstone. But from her vantage, she said that is so cruel for
It
her.
feels
She
cruel.
knows blah
It
blah
feels
blah.
insensitive.
I
Yeah.
said, but it's not her fault.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
get
her
it,
fault,
but
girl.
I
I'm
will
telling you,
say,
I've been through it. But guess what? Look,
I know. Oh, I
oh
know, girl. I know.
my
I
God,
know. But girl, you have demonstrated the faith the size of a mustard seed.
yeah,
You are a warrior because I don't know many folks who would have continued to persevere in the way that you have done. I mean, that just seems you clearly were meant to be a mother. You
yes,
were
I
called to
thank
be a
God.
mother. You were
My
called.
children have, my children have, and I literally say they've just saved my life, really,
Yeah.
because one of my mom's prayers was for her to live to see me to become a mom.
Mm.
And so she did, and she passed when my girls were 2.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But she was my best friend. I mean,
Yeah.
we did a lot. I mean, she was the first person I talked to in the morning and the last person I talked to at night. So my girls took all of that space and all of that love and all that
Yeah.
energy and all everything that I had for her.
Yeah.
But it also allowed me to be a voice and a platform for other women who
Mm.
did not have a platform
Yes.
17, 18 years ago. And God gave me the anointing. I prayed for women, laid hands on women, and they got pregnant. I said,
Wow.
don't ask me to pray for you unless you want to be pregnant. So yep, there's a lot of a burden around that as well. I'm like, child, I got to make sure I'm on the straight and narrow because I don't want to stop anybody's blessings from
Yes.
coming to pass. And it's been interesting,
Yeah.
especially seeing how there's so many platforms to have the conversations now that are just normal. I mean, I literally
Yes.
remember being interviewed by the Sugarland magazine, and the had sparkles at that time. I was the founder of this organization,
Mhm.
giving away grants, blah blah blah.
Now,
And the lady,
Sparkles is your nonprofit, right?
yes, Sparkles of Life.
Okay.
And the lady was asking me, because nobody had actually asked me that. She said, "Did you have any help getting pregnant?" And I had a tough time saying it like out aloud because going back to the shame.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
twins run in my family. My girls are the only girl set, but they're the fifth set of twins in our family. So after my second miscarriage, I started asking God for double, standing on the scripture that he would give you double for your trouble. But it was only when she specifically asked me, did I have IVF treatment? I answered, because prior to that, I think I said something around, hey, I've had medical intervention. Well, maybe some people knew, but it was just different. And then I was on bed rest for so long. And then I lost weight while I was on bed rest.
Mm.
So thank God I did a photo shoot
Yeah.
because a lot of people didn't even think they were they were my children. I'm like,
Oh,
it's like,
wow.
yeah, because I was on bed rest, so nobody saw me.
Wow.
It was
Okay.
like, and it was even more painful. There's like, where'd you get these kids from?
Yeah, sure.
Are
Yes.
you sure? Because you lost weight, blah, blah,
Oh,
blah.
wow. Wow.
So I'm like,
Wow.
let me show y'all this big old belly right here. These are
Yeah.
my children.
Last thing I want to really make sure that we get a chance to talk about here is the finances, because uh, I think the number I read was 18% of women, 35 to 40 something, have had infertility treatment. I think those numbers would be a lot bigger, be it not for the cost. I think a lot of folks are in a position to do that. And I don't know if you had insurance. I don't know if you can talk about the cost back when you were doing this 17 years ago.
So we paid out of pocket firstly, and I will tell you that those numbers are drastically higher than what's being reported because
Wow.
there we get our yearly breast examination and pap smear as a normal.
Hmm.
But most women don't do a reproductive workup or their partner, right? So you may have issues not even knowing that you have issues. You may not have any issues and still not be able to get pregnant.
Hmm.
Or you may be trying slightly without having, seeing a doctor or taking medicine or whatever. So I think the numbers, to be quite frank, are a lot higher than what's being reported
Wow.
because those are people that are reporting that they have had issues of medical intervention.
Sure.
That's not even talking about the people who are single, who would like to have a family, who haven't even started. But a lot of the women that I supported, some of those women chose to have it on their own, to start their families as a single person. But to
Hmm.
answer your question about the finances, it's very expensive, but a lot of things have changed since 17 years ago. That a lot of insurance companies are at least sponsoring a part of maybe the first portion of your reproductive journey, where they may do some testing for you and have some of that stuff covered. Even some of them only cover some cycles versus the cycles of treatment with IVF or IUI. But I will tell you that there are a lot more insurances that you can actually take out now for IVF treatment as well.
Oh, wow.
Loans are always, I've seen a lot of
Wow.
women and families that I've worked with over the years that take out loans on their homes and,
Wow.
mortgages and so on and so forth. But imagine doing that and still not, becoming a parent.
Hmm.
But there's even a bigger challenge in this space.
Hmm.
In my case, of course, my marriage ended. I'm happily married now, so I'm
Hmm. Yeah.
happy about that. But infertility is so hard on families, especially for long periods of time.
Hmm.
But I know quite a few families that are went through the journey and they're still happily married, doing well. So that was my case. But if you look at the statistics, there are very, very high divorce rates for people who
Wow.
endure infertility treatment. Yeah.
And let me ask this, are there support groups out there for families going through infertility issues?
So I used to host a monthly support group, then a quarterly support group, and then we used to do our fundraisers all the time. I am sort of rejoining the community with that. I've done a lot of sort of one-on-one counseling.
Hmm.
Okay.
Um,
Yes, so there are support groups. So a Sparkles of Life used to held a monthly call for prayer and encouragement. I always welcome ladies to go to my page. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, personal and Sparkles of Life, to go there and ask questions. There are support groups. There are a lot more support groups now than there was when I started. But I offer prayer and encouragement, of course, and the grant as well. But I would say there's so many more platforms like an Instagram and even in Facebook where people are just, there's some privacy, obviously, where people are actually talking about it. When I was doing it, just to show you, I was giving away CDs, prayer CDs,
wow. Wow. Wow.
prayer CDs, of course. So I mean, if that tells you about the technology, but now the technology is full force, right? Podcast, Instagrams, people are going live. I did a lot of fundraisers and still do, quite a bit. But a lot of my support is actually more one-on-one now with couples. Because what was really important for me was to be present for my children with having a full career, balancing, being a mom and being present with them to hear, to really parent them well. It's like you really can't do everything. We're in a different season now, and this is so busy. This is their senior year as well. It's like, whew, there's got to have time. But what I've recognized is if you're not present in the moment, it's kind of like being a hairstylist, right? You want to make sure your hair is fresh. You want to make sure your hair looks good before you're trying to work on somebody else's house, right? What is it? The person that's doing the building and repair, like the homemakers. Like you want to make sure your stuff. I want to make sure that my children are healthy.
Yeah, you're your best marketing,
Yeah, and
right?
I want to enjoy it. I want to make sure that I really didn't want to miss a lot for them. But what I
Yeah.
found was that, in the mornings, getting up, making sure that, you know, their breakfast is fixed. And, I've taught them to
Yeah.
be really, really independent. But there's some teaching with that, some repetitiveness, and there are only so many hours in the day, and it's a lot. So I
Yeah.
really value being a parent of my children versus,
Yeah.
making sure I was parenting other people's children.
Well, this has been fantastic, and I can't tell you how many folks I know that you are going to touch with this. I am so taken aback in a positive way by the lengths that you went through in order to be able to have your children. And so I always like to close the show, um, talking about the things that I have learned and from my guests and a little bit of my own wisdom. So I'm going to go through a couple things here. I'm going to look at my notes, girl, because you said so much. And you are always welcome. One of the first things I've heard you say, but one of the things that kept coming back to me was to make sure that you have a village that has shared or shares your experience.
That's right.
And that became even more apparent to me when you said that your brother said, "Hey, why don't you just stop?" And I can tell you, I don't know your brother, but I know that that was from a place of love. It wasn't because he didn't want you to have children, but he could not understand with his 6 kids, who he loves, and I'm sure get on his darn nerves, if you know what I mean,
Yeah.
right? He could not understand. Here, share these kids, you know? And so I do think that having a village of folks who share your experience has got to be incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
So that is one thing. Then the other thing I heard you say is don't get it twisted. This is not just a problem of the woman involved. This is a couple's issue, and that it may be difficult, but that men need to also be tested.
Yeah.
I love what you said when I asked you about how you got around your challenges with your faith, and you said you came to the awareness that it could be within your faith and be by modern day technology or some sort of miracle, but
That's
that
right.
you were going to have a baby,
What
right?
you say? If it is will, right? Modern
If
day
in His
miracle
will.
or Mary
Yep,
miracle. It's a miracle.
yep, yep. I also heard you say, young women, freeze your eggs.
Yeah.
It's insurance. Do it.
Yes. You
Don't
rather.
wait until you're ready to have a baby.
That's
Freeze
right.
your eggs.
Yes.
Well, you've got a lot of them and a lot of healthy ones.
Yes.
And then the last thing I heard you say, which was I knew that some insurances were paying now for some parts of fertility treatment, but I did not know that you could take out specific insurance policies for
Yes.
fertility. And I think that folks need to know that, and families need to know that. You know, we do regular pap smears, we do regular things to make sure that we're healthy. I do think that knowledge is power, and the idea of having a workup, you and your partner, even before you're ready, actually ready, to know what you're working with, to know what you need to do in order to successfully conceive is important. You got a baby down there, you're trying to get
Have
a
a
hold?
baby. And I never thought that I would be a puppy or fur mom.
A dog
But
mom.
yes, but I have a beautiful motif. His name is Casper, and he is spoiled.
Casper.
Casper, say hello to the people.
Hello,
Ah,
Casper. I love it. I love it. Oh, look at that face. Such a
isn't he?
cutie.
He's so adorable.
You are a
Never
mom
thought
through
I
and
would have been
through.
I'd be a fur mom. So I'm all kind of mommies now, and he
Yeah,
loves
you're a
me.
mom through and through. And Rhonda, can you tell folks how they can find you? Tell them again the name of your book, where they can get it. Tell them also about this, how they can get in touch with the Sparkles of Life nonprofit that you are the ED of.
So I'm easy to find. I'm Rhonda Lynn Jenkins, and you will find me and my husband Pierre Jenkins all over Facebook. He is a lovely, lovely man. Loves posting about me. He calls me the queen. So I'm so excited about that. Yeah. So Rhonda Lynn Jenkins, I'm on Facebook, but I'm also my husband is Pierre Jenkins. You can find me on Instagram again, Rhonda Lynn Jenkins. I also have Facebook, Sparkles of Life Inc. And I also have an Instagram, Sparkles of Life. Pretty easy to find. You can send me an email, Rhonda@sparklesoflife.org.
All right. And how do we get your book?
The book is on Amazon. The book is on Amazon. I'd love for you guys to just hammer away with me so that we could do some book club stuff.
Love it.
So what was really fun is that I wrote this book and then I kind of went into, I'm not saying hiatus, but I didn't get a chance to do everything that I wanted to do with it. And so I'd love to be able to do that. But just for instance, chapter 1 is deciding to become a mom. Chapter 2 is tick, 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 tick. Chapter 3 is getting your body ready. 4 is what the doctor ordered, just what the doctor ordered. And then I'm 35, but I want to have a baby. Is it too old? Am I too old? The heart and mind connection. How do you really like connect that stuff together? Where is my faith? So I talk a lot about my faith. The power of agreement, which really, I mean, a ton of stuff into that. And keep on moving no matter what you see. And then the last chapter is delay is not denial. And chapter 11 is we are a family. Because the thing that I want you to know is whether you have children or not, you are still a family. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it has been a pleasure, Rhonda, and I look forward to having you back.
Okay.
All
Sounds
right.
great. I appreciate you and much success on this show and many others to come. I enjoy talking to you, Auntie.
Thank you, Rhonda.